So everyone, you should be already in your FAFSA on your own computer. Have it open, okay? All of y'all, what you'll be doing is submitting the 2023-2024 FAFSA, and it should say start as something like start a new application or renew the FAFSA, and you'll be selecting renew the FAFSA, okay? You want to select renew because what it does is pretty neat. It takes in all the information that you submitted last year and puts it into the new application. Therefore, it actually be faster and quicker when you're submitting your FAFSA, okay? So on your screen, when you're logged in, you should be seeing the button renew. The thing that you should be seeing is called like create a safe key. Up to you, whatever password you want to choose. I'll give you some time right now. I usually tell students put a very basic password because this password is to literally I put 1, 2, 3, 4. This password is literally to let you in on the application for this year. So put your create a safe key, re-enter it, and then press continue. And after you do this, this is where you will be at. This should be like the first page that's going to give you the instructions. Once you're in here in the introduction, make sure you're in the 2023-2024 FAFSA form, and you're going to press continue. And as you can see, FAFSA is broken down into 7 steps. Okay, it's broken down into 7 steps. We're going to start off with students' demographic, which for many of y'all, this information is going to be pre-filled with your info. All you have to do right now is go ahead and confirm that the information that is in there is accurate. Okay, I'm doing a made-up account, so I'll be John for today. Okay, after you're done with that, you press continue. Now it'll be asking for your student email. Again, confirm the information is correct. Every now and then, actually, this is really important because FAFSA does send you your confirmation page through to your email. Okay, and then also go ahead and put in your phone number. Never have I heard of FAFSA contacting students via phone, but you never know. It always happens. There might be an emergency or something with your application. Put it in there, save it, and then press continue. Okay. And then again, your address should be similar. It should be updated. Okay. Again, if it changed, make sure to update it and make sure that this information is correct. Once it is confirmed, go ahead and press continue. So once we are in this question called students residency and eligibility, it's pretty much asking, have you lived in, it'll say your state, for at least 5 years. For the most part, it's yes. If it says no, let us know. But for the most part, this question will be yes. As for citizenship, it's yes, I'm a US citizen, and then press continue. If you're a resident of the resident, you'll be putting no, but I'm eligible for non-citizen. I'm an eligible non-citizen, and you put your alien registration number, okay? And once you answer those 2, press continue. Now these questions, typically students miss it. So let's walk through this one. So what will be your high school completion status when you begin college in 2023-2024? Sorry, your high school completion. Y'all have graduated high school, so put high school diploma. Okay. And then what college degree or certificate will you be working on when you begin your 2023-2024 school year? Again, y'all be working towards your first bachelor's degree. Okay. Will you have your first bachelor's degree before 2023-2024? This will be a no. Okay. And then this one, students miss this one all the time. It's asking, what will be your college grade level when you begin 2023-2024? So what will you be next year? Not what you currently are right now, is what would you be next year? If your university has you classified right now as a sophomore, next year you'll be a junior, right? If you're currently a freshman, next year you'll be a sophomore. So what is your classification for next year is what it's asking. And then the question about work study, always put yes. Always put yourself in a position to receive work study. If you don't want it, you don't need it, you can always decline it later on. But you always want to tell the university, if there's work study available, give it to me. Later on, you can decline it, okay? So always put yourself in position to receive it, put yes, and then continue. For a driver's license, up to you if you want to put it. You don't have to. You can continue actually without having to put the information. If it's pre-filled, I mean, you're good to go. And then you would just press continue. Okay. Now for this part, are you a foster youth, or were you in the foster care system at any time? Again, answer to your situation. If you put yes, you actually will be classified as independent, and then you don't have to put parents' info. If you put no, if your situation is no, then you would put no. Now these two questions, you never want to put other or unknown, okay? It is asking for parent 1 highest level, highest school completed, as well as parent 2. In your situation, if you have no contact whatsoever with a parent, the question is, because what this is trying to identify is, do your parents have a college degree, a bachelor's degree? Okay. So again, see if what you want to identify is like, what they want to know is like if your parents have a bachelor's degree, because they're trying to identify if you're a first generation college student. Okay. So answer it to the best of your ability. Again, if you don't have contact with a parent or so, ask yourself, do they have a bachelor's degree? And if they don't, put the next highest, which is high school. Again, don't ever put this other or unknown. I have a question here. Yes, this is through your student account. Yeah, you're doing all of this through your own account, your own login, your FAFSA ID login. Don't do it through the parents, do it through yours. Okay. So I'll put here middle school, and then press continue. So for this is pretty much, I think, pre-selected for y'all because you're doing renewal. So I'm just going to pick something here real quick so I can move forward. Texas. I'm from Austin, Texas, as you can tell. And I'm just going to search for a school. For y'all, it should be pre-filled. If it isn't, go ahead and put your high school. And then continue. And now the next question it'll ask will be college, okay? So it should, if it's not pre-filled for y'all, go ahead and put your college that you're currently in. Let me select one for myself. I'm gonna put Austin as well. If you're a student that's transferring for next year, make sure to add all your universities. Don't put the one that you're currently attending and put the one that that you're planning to transfer to. Okay. So if you need to add more schools because you're transferring, make sure to click add more schools and you add all of them there. Okay. If you're continuing at your current university, then just put your university. And then the next question you'll be answering is housing plans on campus with parents off campus. And again, put what your situation will be. And then once you have your school info in there, you'll be pressing continue. So now we're in section 3, and we're going to be identifying the dependency status, okay, for yourself. So now it's asking for student information, aka yourself. What is your marital status as of today? Again, you'll be putting your information here. For the most part, a lot of the students that I work with, they put down single. But again, put what's your situation and then press continue. Okay. And it'll be asking 2 sets of questions for yourself. Again, this is asking for you. Do you now have or will have children between these years right here, these dates right here? If you're not going to have a child in these days, you're going to put no. If you do, put yes. Okay. If you do have a child, you actually will also be considered independent and therefore will no longer have to put parent information. But if this is not your case, you don't have children, you'll be putting parent information, which will be asked shortly after this. And then the other question is asking is, do you have dependent other than your children or spouse who live with you and who receive more than half of the support from you? Okay, now through June 30th, 2024. So this question is, we do have some students who fully support siblings, who fully support aunt, somebody from the family. If that's a situation, you put yes. If not, you put no. And typically it's, if you're in that situation, you're like claiming them on your taxes if you're filing taxes yourself, okay? But the comments answer is no for this one. Okay, and I'm going to press continue. And now it's going to ask a set of questions for you to answer on your situation. Okay, if none of them apply, you're going to put none of the above. But to walk you through is, are you currently serving on active duty? Are you a veteran? At any time since you turned age 13, were you both your parents deceased? Were you in the foster care, or were you a dependent or ward of the court? Meaning like, were you in the foster care and so on? As determined by a court in your state of legal residence, are you or were you an emancipated minor? Meaning like before you turn 18, the court already gave you like, I usually would do the reference of like, you're a pop star, you're making your own money, you are good money-wise, right? But this would have been determined by the court. Typically doesn't apply for our students. And the last question, does someone other than your parent or step-parent have legal guardianship of you as determined by the court? If this is your situation, if someone has legal guardianship over you, what will happen? You also will be considered independent and no longer have to provide parent info, okay? Which you'll be seeing that change in your FAFSA once you answer these. So everyone go ahead and check if it applies. If none of these apply, just click none of the above, and then you'll be pressing continue. Okay, let me pause there, see if there's any questions coming in. Okay, let's continue. So follow-up question for dependency status will be student homelessness filter question. On or after July 1st, 2022, were you homeless or were you self-supporting or at risk of being homeless? Okay, important question. On or after July 1st, 2022, were you homeless or were you self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? Okay, go ahead and answer this question. If you worked in high school, if you were homeless, and if you work closely with a counselor, they probably would have given you documentation forms to classify as homeless. If you are classified as homeless, again, you'll then be considered independent and no longer have to put parent information, okay? But if that is not your case, go ahead and put no and press continue. Good question. For the question that we passed, which was, when adding colleges, do you only add the ones that you're attending? Yes. So just add the one you're attending and then go ahead and answer if you're on campus, off campus, or with parents, okay? The only reason you'll be adding more will be if you're transferring. If you're planning to transfer, then you'll add your current school and then all the other schools you're planning to transfer to. Okay. Good question. Yeah, keep them coming. We're trying to make this as interactive, easy, doable to get your FAFSA submitted. Okay. And then we'll press continue. And then last question on the dependency section, section 3. So based on all the answers that we just reviewed, it'll let you know you are a dependent student and therefore need to provide parent info. If you selected any of the situations that were added, it will let you know here independent, and then therefore you no longer have to provide parent info, okay? But for the majority of the time, it'll say dependent, and I will provide information about my parents. You'll be checking that little bubble off. And then once you are here, you'll press continue. And we are now in section 4, almost there, halfway there, okay? Perfect. Okay. And then as we are here, now we're going to be moving over to parent section, parent information. Okay. And again, it gives you a general what we're going to be covered, what it is, and so on. And then you will press continue. Okay. Oh, nice. Someone was done. Yay. Perfect. Yeah. So now we're in section 4. So then the question is asking, as of today, what is the marital status of your parents? And again, go ahead and answer never married, unmarried, and both legal parents live together, married, remarried, divorced, or separated, widowed. Okay. For a lot of y'all, this might be pre-filled because it's pulling information from last year's FAFSA. So I'm just going to select one here. And then it will ask you for the month and year. I'm just going to make something up here, but like I mentioned, for a lot of y'all, this might be pre-filled because again, it's pulling from last year's info. So I'm just making something up here and then press continue. This information might be pre-filled as well for y'all. Okay. So if we have any students here whose parents don't have a social security, what you'll be putting under parent social security number will be all 0. So now we're in section 3 and we're going to be identifying the dependency status, okay, for yourself. So now it's asking for student information, aka yourself. What is your marital status as of today? Again, you'll be putting your information here. For the most part, a lot of the students that I work with, they put down single. But again, put what's your situation and then press continue. Okay. And it'll be asking 2 sets of questions for yourself. Again, this is asking for you. Do you now have or will have children between these years right here, these dates right here? If you're not going to have a child in these days, you're going to put no. If you do, put yes. Okay. If you do have a child, you actually will also be considered independent and therefore will no longer have to put parent information. But if this is not your case, you don't have children, you'll be putting parent information, which will be asked shortly after this. And then the other question is asking is, do you have dependent other than your children or spouse who live with you and who receive more than half of the support from you? Okay. Now through June 30th, 2024. So this question is, we do have some students who fully support siblings, who fully support somebody from the family. If that's a situation, you put yes. If not, you put no. And typically it's, if you're in that situation, you're like claiming them on your taxes if you're filing taxes yourself, okay? But the comments answer is no for this one. Okay. And I'm going to press continue. And now it's going to ask a set of questions for you to answer on your situation. Okay. If none of them apply, you're going to put none of the above. But to walk you through is, are you currently serving on active duty? Are you a veteran? At any time since you turned age 13, were you both your parents deceased? Were you in the foster care, or were you a dependent or ward of the court? Meaning like, were you in the foster care and so on? As determined by a court in your state of legal residence, are you or were you an emancipated minor? Meaning like before you turn 18, the court already gave you like, I usually would do the reference of like, you're a pop star, you're making your own money, you are good money-wise, right? But this would have been determined by the court. Typically doesn't apply for our students. And the last question, does someone other than your parent or step-parent have legal guardianship of you as determined by the court? If this is your situation, if someone has legal guardianship over you, what will happen? You also will be considered independent and no longer have to provide parent info, okay? Which you'll be seeing that change in your FAFSA once you answer these. So everyone go ahead and check if it applies. If none of these apply, just click none of the above, and then you'll be pressing continue. Okay, let me pause there, see if there's any questions coming in. Okay, let's continue. So follow-up question for dependency status will be student homelessness filter question. On or after July 1st, 2022, were you homeless or were you self-supporting or at risk of being homeless? Okay, important question. On or after July 1st, 2022, were you homeless or were you self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? Okay, go ahead and answer this question. If you worked in high school, if you were homeless, and if you work closely with a counselor, they probably would have given you documentation forms to classify as homeless. If you are classified as homeless, again, you'll then be considered independent and no longer have to put parent information. Okay, but if that is not your case, go ahead and put no and press continue. Good question. For the question that we passed, which was when adding colleges, do you only add the ones that you're attending? Yes. So just add the one you're attending and then go ahead and answer if you're on campus, off campus, or with parents. Okay. The only reason you'll be adding more will be if you're transferring. If you're planning to transfer, then you'll add your current school and then all the other schools you're planning to transfer to. Okay. Good question. Yeah, keep them coming. We're trying to make this as interactive, easy, doable to get your FAFSA submitted. Okay. And then we'll press continue. And then last question on the dependency section, section 3. So based on all the answers that we just reviewed, it'll let you know you are a dependent student and therefore need to provide parent info. If you selected any of the situations that were added, it will let you know here independent, and then therefore you no longer have to provide parent info. Okay, but for the majority of the time, it'll say dependent, and I will provide information about my parents. You'll be checking that little bubble off. And then once you are here, you'll press continue. Yeah, so now we're in section 4. So then the question is asking, as of today, what is the marital status of your parents? And again, go ahead and answer never married, unmarried, and both legal parents live together, married, remarried, divorced, or separated, widowed. Okay, for a lot of y'all, this might be pre-filled because it's pulling information from last year's FAFSA. So I'm just going to select one here. And then it will ask you for the month and year. I'm just going to make something up here, but like I mentioned, for a lot of y'all, this might be pre-filled because again, it's pulling from last year's info. So I'm just making something up here and then press continue. This information might be pre-filled as well for y'all. Okay. So if we have any students here whose parents don't have a social security, what you'll be putting under parent social security number will be all zeros. Okay. For those that do have social securities, you'll be seeing that it's already pre-filled based on last year's sample. If it's not pre-filled, more than likely last year, when you filled it out, again, you want to confirm if they do have social securities, put it in there. If they don't, if they have an item number or something else, you leave it as zeros. I'm going to go ahead and just put random numbers there so I can continue. I'm going to put a last name, initial, and as I mentioned, for a lot of y'all, this is pre-filled. Go ahead and take the time to review that the information is correct. Up to y'all if you want to put parents' email. I know a lot of students tell me like, Miss, my parents don't have an email. That's totally fine. I usually tell students you can put your own email if you want to, or leave it blank. This is just also when you submit your FAFSA, it sends an email over to your parents' email, letting them know that, hey, your student submitted FAFSA and they're good to go. Okay. So up to you. You can leave it blank or you can put your own email in this section. Next is going to ask for parent 2. Okay. You decide who parent 2 is. If you put married, if you put widowed or single, you have the option to just put one parent down, okay? Right now it's asking me for two because I have put married or remarried. I'm gonna put here Social Security for a parent. And again, reminder, if parent 2 doesn't have a Social Security, you'll be putting all zeros. If they do, go ahead and type it in now, or it already is pre-filled based on last year's FAFSA info. If you want to know your parents' Social Security, again, let them know, right? But again, it'll be pre-filled from last year's information. I'm going to put here a name, an initial, and a date of birth. If it's pre-filled for you, go ahead and confirm that the information is accurate. Okay. And then once you have it pre-filled or done, you'll be good to go. Okay. Now I do have a lot of students ask me questions on this one right here, or they miss it, or they don't answer it correctly. And it says, have your parents lived in your state, it should say your state, in Maryland for at least 5 years. So it's really much asking like, have your parents lived in that state for 5 years? Okay. For the most part, it's yes. Okay. If they put no, it will ask like, what is your parents' state of legal residence? You'll be putting the state, and then have they lived there since January 1st, 2018? Okay. But going back to this question, if they lived in your state for at least 5 years, put yes, and then press continue. Okay. Now this one's very wordy, but it's actually very simple. Pretty much asking, how many other dependent children do your parents have? So include the other dependent children of your parents if they, so pretty much your siblings. What other, your siblings you include here, don't include yourself, okay? Only put your siblings. So I'm gonna say that I have 3 siblings, right? So I'm going to include them here. Now I do have encountered many students who older siblings live with your parents, right? One way to judge this is, do I include my brother who is 26? He's still living with my parents, but he works, he pays his stuff and so on. So one way to easily answer that will be like, who you put down here sibling wise. If your sibling is older than 24, you do not include them in here, okay? Only include your siblings under 24. Even if you have siblings in another who already went off to college, they're currently not living with your parents, like they're living in a dorm, but technically your parents are still taking care of them financially, you include them there too, okay? So in this question, include your siblings, especially your parents are providing their support that are under 24. I'm gonna put 3 there. Don't include yourself. And then the follow-up question is, how many other dependents do your parents have? So it does happen where some parents have their parents, your grandparents live with them. They may have an aunt or uncle. They may have a nephew, right, living with them. And you will include them here if your parents provide more than half of their support. And by that, like they're half of their income. Are they providing the support with food, with a house, right? Housing, with health, right? And like if they provide more than half of the support, you include them here. And we'll continue receiving support between the dates July 1st, 2023 and June 30th, 2024. Okay. So if they're not providing support for anybody else, you would just put 0 and then you press continue. Let me see here. Some questions. Yeah, if it's only yourself, you will put 0 for both. 0 for both. That's correct. Okay, let me see. I know this one gets tricky. A lot of students get questions on this because they don't know who to include. So feel free to chat it in. Give it another second. Perfect. Okay. So then I'm going to press continue. So now it'll read like this, right? Your household size is 6. 1 for you, I originally put 2 parents, so for both parents, and then 3 siblings, okay? So this should reflect your situation in your household, okay? If it's you, 1 parent, 0 siblings, this should reflect your situation. Make sure this is accurate. If it isn't, click previous and change the numbers, okay? And now this question, students misread it, so I want to make sure that I rephrase it correctly. And it says, out of the 4 dependent in your parents' household, as shown above, how many will be in college next year? Do not include your parents, but do include yourself. So if you are the only one from the household who's attending college, put a 1. If it's you or a sibling, put 2, right? Don't include your parents in here. So at least it should be 1 because you're the ones that are going to college. Don't miss this. Many students miss this and put wrong info. Okay, if it's you, at least the one going to college, you should be putting a 1 here. And once you have that, you'll press continue. And we are now in step 5. Woohoo! Almost there. Okay. We just need parents' financial info, students' financial info, and then we'll be done. So now we're going to focus on parents' financial information. So for 2021, have your parents completed their IRS income tax return or another tax return? So by now, most of the parents should have already submitted their IRS. And we're looking at the year 2021. Okay. So already completed. If for whatever reason they haven't, because once in a blue moon, it's a situation, don't submit your FAFSA until your parents submitted their 2021 tax return. And then what type of income tax return will your parents file for 2021? I'm going to show you now an example of what your parents' tax return should be looking like. So this is the tax return that most parents have. Okay, so yours, if you yourself filed taxes, it should be looking something similar like this. And it reads as a 1040 on the top left-hand corner. So this is a 1040. We will be using this for this next section on the FAFSA. You probably will be using the W-2. This is where given to your parents by their employer, or if you yourself worked, also given to you by your employer. And this one will show how much you earned during the year. This is called a W-2, and you're looking for the year 2021. Or you may also have received what's called a 1099 for the year 2021. Okay. So I'll show you how we use these documents to submit your FAFSA. So as we go over back to the FAFSA, the question is asking, what type of income tax return did your parents file for 2021? For the most part, it'll be IRS form 1040. Okay, now as you can see, it only gives you 3 options. The other one will be a foreign tax return, which is typically not the case. Or another one is from Puerto Rico, which is typically not the case for our students. And for the majority is IRS form 1040. And then the question after that, it'll ask, what is your parents' tax filing status according to the tax return? So easy peasy, you will go over to your 1040. Okay. And at the very top, it'll have check off if they're single, if they filed married, filing separately, head of household, qualified widower. So you see where the checkbox is, and from there you'll answer here. So I'm going to select one for right now so we can go forward and put married, filed joint return. Let me pause there as y'all are looking at the documents. Okay. Now, Miss, what if I don't have the documents right now? It happens, right? Many of y'all are in college. You're not back home. My recommendation is if parents can, or if not, have a sibling do this. Have them take pictures of your parents' 1040s and text them over to you. Okay. So it can help you to submit your FAFSA after this if you don't have this information. If not, you can try this. So this is the number one thing I recommend for everyone. Everyone do what's called the data retrieval tool, DRT. So this will work for everyone except for students whose parents don't have a Social Security. If your parents don't have a Social Security, they submitted their FAFSA, their taxes using the ITIN number, that's totally fine. All you would do is submit the information manually. I'll show you how to do that right now. If your parents do have a Social Security, make sure to do this, because this is what this does is it links all the tax information from the IRS into your FAFSA directly. So one, it's more error-free, right? Less likely that there'll be an error in there because it's literally pulled directly from the FAFSA. It makes it a lot easier for you to submit FAFSA because everything gets pulled. It's super easy. You just literally press continue, continue, continue because everything gets pulled in. And then three, there is less of a chance of you getting verified by the university because the university knows that the information that's on your FAFSA, it's literally directly pulled from the IRS. So if you have the chance to link your FAFSA to your parents' tax return, do so. How do you do that? So when you get to this section right here, it'll say proceed to the IRS. Now, in order for you to do that, you'll be needing your parents' FSA ID. So whoever you created an FSA ID for, whether it's mom or dad or whoever you put for parent one or parent two, you'll be selecting them. And then their FSA ID is either an email, a phone number, a username that you created for them, and a password. Okay. So if you have your parents' FSA ID, if you don't, make sure to do this afterwards, but plug it in here, plug in the password, and then you're going to press continue. Okay. Once you do that, it's going to say like now shifting you over to the IRS. Once you click continue from there, it'll say you're going to have to type in their information, and you just want to make sure that it aligns exactly to what is shown here on the 1040. Okay. Their first name, their last name, it's very sensitive. Like it literally will pull the information that is shown here. So capitalization, spacing, spelling, exactly the way it's here, it's what you'll be putting on the IRS page. I can't show it because as far as I'll go, just because mine's a dummy account. But if you're in there, you can see that it's asking for info. Make sure that it's matching exactly what's on the 1040. Name, spacing, everything. And once you do it, you'll press continue. It'll pull it, it'll find it, and then you just click transfer now. Okay. So if you're able to do that, do so. It's the best way to submit the FAFSA. What we're going to do on here is show you how to do it the manual way, like actually plug in the numbers. Just because, like I mentioned, mine's a dummy account, so I won't be able to link to anything on the IRS. So I'm going to skip it on my end, and I'll show you how to plug it in manually in case for some reason yours doesn't link, or like I mentioned, for our students, parents who don't have a Social Security, this is the way you'll be doing it. Let me pause there because I know I just shared a lot of info. Let me see if there's any questions that come in. Like I mentioned, if you're able to do the data retrieval tool, do it. That's the best way to submit the FAFSA. Okay. And like I mentioned, if you have issues, you weren't able to link it, your parents don't have a Social Security, that's totally fine. I'll show you how to do it manually. Yes, if you do have to leave and you want to rejoin, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, definitely. We're in the last two sections, so we'll be getting those done. So yeah, if you need to leave, feel free to do so. Come on back in and we'll continue with the FAFSA. Awesome. Yeah. So here we go. Okay. This is a part that a lot of students have questions. So I want to make sure that we walk through this as best as possible. So first question, what was your parents' adjusted gross income for 2021? The cool part is it'll say there, this amount is found on the IRS form 1040 line 11. So you'll go over to your 1040, okay? You'll go down to line 11, and whatever number you find there, you're going to transfer it over to this line right here. So I'm just going to put in a random number. And here we go. So let's say, again, 1040, line 11, whatever number is there, you're going to put it in this box right here. Once you have that, press continue. Now it is asking for these two questions. If you did end up doing the data retrieval tool, amazing. All the questions are going to get answered except these two, okay? Where do you find the answer to these two questions? So number one is asking, how much did parent one earn from working wages? The best way to answer this is go over to your parent one's W-2 or 1099. More than likely it'll be a W-2 and you'll be finding the answer in number one. Whatever number they have here for number one is what you'll be putting for parent one's income and wages. So I'm just going to put here a number. And same thing, how much did parents two make? Best way to find this answer is to go over onto their W-2, make sure it's for parent two. It'll have their information here, their name and all of that. And then put whatever number that they have here for number one. And I'm just going to put another 25. Okay. If you have issues with identifying your parents' individual working wages, we do have, let me pop in the question in here. The number is in the W-2 question mark. Yeah, so if the question is, where do I find this number? You'll be finding it in the W-2 under question one. Was that the question? Whatever is in here in this box is what you're going to transfer over for parent one. And then you go to parents two, again, make sure that their name is accurate. Whatever number is here, you'll be popping it into parent two. So good question. That's what I was gonna lead to. What if one parent did not work or one parent doesn't have a W-2? This is where you kind of get creative, right? So if only one parent worked, only one, then typically the wage is going to match line 11, right? Because only one parent worked, one income is coming in. So typically what's on line 11 for 1040 is going to be the same for parent one. Now, what if both parents worked, but only one of them has a W-2? What you're going to do then is get the total number, line 11, subtract it from the income that you do have, and whatever is remaining, you can put it for parent two. Does that make sense? Does that answer that question? Yeah, so if what you're missing a W-2 for a parent, we get it, right? Just do some subtraction here. Get their total number, which is line 11, and subtract the income that you do have for whichever parent, and then whatever's left over, put it for parent two. Okay. If you need additional support or specific support on this, I'm going to share a link for y'all to share your questions. If you don't want to get specific support right now and be moved over to the break room, you can easily pop in your question into the survey, and then we'll get to you during the workday. One of us will follow up with you directly. And then let me pop it in for everyone. There we go. Perfect. Awesome. And then let's continue. Okay. So then this one, you indicated that your parents filed an IRS form 1040. Did your parents file a Schedule 1? A lot of students are like, Miss, where do I find the Schedule 1? Where is it? So when you're looking at your parents' tax documents, there's usually quite a few forms. On the top left, go through them. Okay. On the top left, see if any of them are called Schedule 1 on the top left. If you don't have any document titled Schedule 1, then your parents did not file one, and now you put no. Okay. As you're going through the tax documents, if one of them is called a Schedule 1, then you would just put yes. Okay. Now, if you do file schedule 1, the follow-up question will be, as of today, are either of your parents a dislocated worker? And again, these are like if your parents got injured on the job or are getting unemployment benefits, got laid off, then you would put yes, no, depending on your parent's situation. I put no for right now. And then it'll ask, are you receiving any of these supports? Medicaid, SSI, food stamps, SNAP, free or reduced lunch, TANF, or WIC. Okay, so a lot of students get free and reduced lunch, and this is for you, your siblings for the year 2021, 2022. If this applies to you, like I mentioned, one that's very common is a free and reduced lunch. You'll check it off and then press continue. Okay. We're halfway there for parents info. The next question will be, do you want to skip the remaining questions about your parents' income and assets? You'll be putting no. You do want to answer them. Okay. And again, this will be very simple to fill out because it will let you know exactly where to find the information. So enter the amount of your parents' income tax for 2021. And again, you'll go to form 1040, line 22. If you end up having a schedule 2, you subtract line 2, but it's not, schedule 2 is not common. So typically you'll just go to 1040, line 22. And you'll see that for a lot of students, this section is blank. If it's blank, that means 0. Okay. So for this question, if there's a 0 or it's blank, you put 0. If there's an actual number in line 22, then put whatever that number is that you see here. You will bring it over to this box right here. Okay, press continue. Now, just to reframe it, a lot of these questions will not apply to your parents. Okay, it's not common for me to find students who do have this. So a lot of it will be 0, but just to walk you through it real quick. So for the first question, if your parents were not in the military, you put 0. This is more so if parents were part of combat pay or the military, which doesn't apply to a lot of parents, so that's 0. The second question is if your parents are in college, which a lot of students' parents are not. So again, put 0. The one that I typically do have students answer to is this one, the educational credit. Easy. You go back to your 1040, line 3, 1040, schedule 3. Again, if you don't have a schedule 3, this doesn't apply to you. If you do, just go to line 3 and whatever number that's there, you'll pop it in. And typically the number you find is 1,500. Again, if it's blank or you don't see anything or you don't have a schedule 3, this does not apply to you. You'll leave it as 0. And then the last 2 questions are talking about if they have a retirement plan and so on. If they don't have a retirement plan, it's 0. How do you find out? Again, follow the instructions. You go to 1040, the form 1040, and you go down those lines. Okay. For the most part, it's blank or 0. It doesn't really apply to students, parents. And all you do is put 0. Same thing with this one. And the last one here is tax exempt interest. Again, 1040, line 2A. For the most part, it doesn't apply to students' parents. It's blank or 0. And you just leave it as 0. Okay, so really the only one that gets answered if it applies to you will be this one. All the other ones for the most part are 0. Okay, question, let me see. Do I check Medicaid if they're already applying for it? So it's for the year. Good question. It'll be for the year 2021, 2022. If they're gonna have Medicaid for last year or this year, then that's when you apply it. If they're just applying for it and they probably won't get it until 2023, then don't check it off. Okay, but do check off the other ones. Good question. Okay. Here we go. And then the last 2 sections on the parents' information. So let me just make sure I didn't skip one. This one. So check any if they apply. Again, for the most part, they don't apply, but just to walk you through them. Child support your parents paid. So if your parents paid child support in 2021, you'll do an estimate of how much they did for the year 2021, and you'll plug it in here. Okay. If they didn't pay child support, doesn't apply to them, leave it as 0. Earnings from a co-op. Again, if your parents were not in college, this doesn't apply to them, you leave it as 0, which is typically the case for a lot of students that I work with. And then lastly, taxable earnings from need-based employment programs such as federal work study. Again, if your parents were not in college, this does not apply to them either. Okay, so a lot of them will not apply, you leave it as 0. Then you press continue. This one is if your parents received child support, okay, for 2021. If they didn't, you put it as 0. If they did, estimate how much they got and you plug it in there. The question after that is also more so like if they're in the military, which a lot of students' parents are not, so we leave it as 0. The next one will be if they have a retirement plan, which many parents I work with don't, but in order for you to find out, just to be sure, you'll see here that it says go to their W-2 and see if they have anything in 12A, 12D, and these. So you go over to their W-2, it'll be these boxes right here. If they have it blank or 0, you keep it at 0 over here as well. If they have a number, then just transfer it over. And just make sure that you look at all of them, but don't include the one that says DD, as you can see here in the instructions. Next after that is if it's asking if they're veterans, which many of our students' parents are not, so we keep it at 0. And then any other untaxed income, such as workers' compensation, disability benefits. If they don't, we'll leave it at 0. So as you can see, many of it will be 0, not a lot of them that you actually have to like answer to. And then from there, you press continue. And then the last question for parents' assets. Do you want to skip questions about your parents' assets? You press no. And it'll be 3 questions, okay? For the most part, it'll be 0, just as a heads up, by the way. But the first one's asking, as today, what is your parents' total current cash, savings, or checkings? So to reiterate this, if your parents have a cash, savings, or checkings that they have just for your college education, like if they have one that's just for your college education, then you put that number here. But if they do have a cash or checkings, but they use it for bills, right, emergencies and so on, you don't count that. You leave it at 0. The only number you'll be putting here is like if they have their own checkings, that money is just for you to go to college, okay? Which is typically not the case. Many of our students' parents' checkings or savings is money for bills, right, for emergencies, for cost in the household. The second question is asking if your parents have any investments. So this is not the house that they're in. It's a house another house that they rent out to somebody else. Okay, and for the most part, that is 0. And then lastly is if they have a business with more than 100 employees. If they do have a business, but it's less than 100 employees, then that'll be 0. So for the most part, it's 0 for all these 3 questions, okay? And then we are done with parent info. So yeah, so shifting over to students. So for you, this is now your information right here, okay? Last section, and then it is over. And as you can tell, FAFSA is long and there could be a lot of tricky questions. So that's why I wanted to create the time and space to like go through them, answer questions, to make sure you submit it confidently and accurately as well. So last section. So for you, this is now for you, your own, asking for yourself. So it's asking for 2021, have you completed your IRS tax return? So if you already did it, put already completed, okay? If you did not work, then put not going to file, okay? If you did work, but you were not required to file taxes, if you made less than 6,100, you're not required to file taxes. You will put, and did not file your taxes, you're going to put not going to file. Okay, Ilana, quick question, because I missed this portion, but what category would unemployment compensation fall under? That one will be parents' financial. There was a question in the parents' information where you are, it's asking about income for unemployment compensation. I'll help you afterwards because there is a specific question on this and you do want to report this. So let me put in the link. Here we go, that you can ask the question and I'll follow up with you directly because yeah, there is, you want to report this accurately. Let me make sure, let me see. Ali, can you pop in the question on the survey?
Yeah.
So that they can put the question. Yeah, don't submit yours yet because there is a section that you want to put this information on. So for the student info, like I mentioned, if you're not going to file taxes or do not have to file taxes, you put not going to file, you will press continue. And then if you did not work, you put 0, right? If you did work but did not file taxes, you just put how much you made. And really that will be it. Like just answer these questions. A lot of them will be 0 and then you'll be done. But I'm going to answer it as if students did work. So let's say you did work, you did file your taxes. So you're going to put already completed. More than likely it's the 1040, okay? Because the other option will be foreign or Puerto Rican, okay? So it's again, 1040. And then filing status, put the right filing status. Again, you will look at your own 1040 and see what's checked off on the top. But for the most part, it is single. The students put down. And then same thing with you, and it's actually might be easier with you. You will go and use a data retrieval tool. Same thing. You will click proceed to the IRS. It'll tell you you're now leaving FAFSA. You're going over to the IRS website. The system's not going to let me know, because it's a demonstration site. But it will, it'll take you over to the IRS, and same thing. Just make sure that the information you're plugging in is exactly this right here. So it'll be easily able to find you in the system, and then therefore pull all your IRS info into your FAFSA and make it very easy and simple to submit. Okay, but I'm going to do it the longer way. In case for some reason the data retrieval tool doesn't work for you, this is the way you'll be doing it. So same thing, just like we did for your parents, it'll now be for you. What is your adjusted gross income? You'll go over to the 1040, line 11, whatever's in there, you'll be popping it over. I'm just going to put a number for right now. 10,000. Actually, that's quite a lot, but let me do something more like right above that you have to file taxes, 6,000. Okay, so how much did you earn from working wages? This typically matches what is on your 1040. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. If you want to find out another way, again, go to your own W-2, what's on line 1, or just stick to what's on 1040, line 11. And usually your wage matches your income. And then same thing, enter the amount of your income that was taxed, and that's in line 22 of the 1040. So you go over to the 1040, line 22. For most of y'all, it'll be blank. Like I mentioned, if it's blank, put 0. If you see a number, then just transfer the number over to over here. Okay. Now, same thing, same questions that were asked for your parents. It'll be asked now for you. So first question, combat pay. If you're in the military, most of our students are not. That's going to be a 0 because they won't apply to you. This question, students get confused. Let me pause for this one because I know we are a scholarship provider and we give y'all money, right? So it's asking student college grant and scholarship aid reported to the IRS in your income, includes AmeriCorps, as well as grants, scholarships, portionship, fellowships, and assistantship. Okay. This majority of the time will be 0. Okay. Just because it's saying grants and scholarships doesn't mean like you actually put like what we gave you. None of that. The reason it asks this is because once in a while, once in a blue moon, students report to the IRS the scholarship, which you shouldn't, and for the most part don't have to. But once in a while students do that, and if you did, then that's where you do put that amount here. Okay. But for the most part, when you file your taxes is just based on your earning income that you from your job where you were working at. So again, for the most part, this will be 0. This won't typically apply to you at all. So there's that one. Educational tax credit really won't apply to you either, but if it does, again, go to 1040, Schedule 3, line 3. If you don't have the Schedule 3, doesn't apply to you, leave it as 0. The next two is asking about a retirement plan. A lot of our students don't have retirement plans yet, so these don't apply to you, so you would put 0. How do you find out? Just follow the instructions on where to find the info. If it's all blank, again, it's all 0. And then lastly, tax exempt entrance income from IRS Form 1040 line 2A. For the most part, it'll be 0, but just to confirm, you go over to 2A. If it's blank, it's a 0. If there's a number there, just transfer it over. So as you can see, a lot of it will be 0. It won't apply to you. Okay. Almost there, almost at the end. So child support paid. If you pay child support for 2021, estimate how much you paid for the year 2021 and put it there. If it doesn't apply to you, put 0. Earnings from co-op, for the most part, it's 0, doesn't apply to students. And then lastly, taxable earnings from need-based employment programs such as federal work study and need-based employment portions of fellowships and assistantships. Again, if you reported your work study to the IRS, follow the instructions. It'll show you like where to put the information. For the most part, it doesn't apply to students and it'll be a 0. Again, a lot of it will be 0 for students and a lot of them won't apply to you. Okay. Then same thing, a lot of this will be 0. Just to review them real quickly, for 2021, if you receive child support, if you have a child and receiving child support, you put it here. The follow-up question is if you're in the military, which many students are not, so this won't apply to you. The follow-up question is if you have a retirement plan, which many students don't. Again, put 0 because it won't apply to you. Follow-up question will be for veterans. Again, if you're not a veteran, this doesn't apply to you, so leave it as 0. And then this one, who was the question? Kaylana. This one is what you're looking for, but on the parent side. Other on-tax income not reported, such as workers' compensation, disability benefits, etc. Okay, so it's asking this on the student side, but it's the exact same question that's going to be asked on the parent side. That's where you put the information. There you go. Yeah. So when you go over to the parent's info, it'll read just like this. This is the one you're looking for. If you need further explanation, just click on the question mark and it'll explain to you there. Okay. But for students, again, this doesn't apply to them. And then lastly, money received or paid on your behalf, not reported elsewhere on this form. This includes money that you receive from a parent or other person whose financial information is not reported on this form, that is not part of a legal child support agreement. For the most part, this doesn't apply to you. You just put 0. Okay. A lot of these questions will be 0. It doesn't apply to you for the most part. And then we're down to the last question. Woohoo! Do you want to skip questions about your assets? Put no, because for the most part, again, they will be 0, as you can see. Same 3 questions that were asked for your parents. As of today, what is your total current balance of cash, savings, or checkings? So same thing for y'all, right? You all have your own checkings, you all have your own savings. If you have it just for tuition for college, that's it, just for that, then you can put the number there, right? But if you use your own savings or checkings for your phone bill, your car payment, all your other bills, then you would just leave it as 0. Okay. Like I said, it's not common for students just to have money just for college. They usually use it for a bunch of other expenses, other bills. The second question is any net worth. What is the net worth of your investments, including real estate? So again, asking if you have a house that you rented out, right? Most students don't, so it's 0. Last question. Well, good thing we're in the last question. The last question was asked today, what is the net worth of your current business? If you have a business with more than 100 employees, which is not the case for students, you'll be putting 0 because that's not the case. And that will be the last question. This will have kicked me out. But once you submit that last question, it'll take you to your signature page. Let me unshare my screen, stop share. It'll take you to the signature page, okay? You submit that, you press continue. It'll give you an overview of everything you submitted. Review it one more time, make sure everything is correct. And then from there, it'll take you to the signature page. Make sure for yourself to sign it, sign and submit. You go over to parents, put their FSA ID for parent 1, parent 2, sign and submit, and then you submit your FAFSA, okay? Once you submit it, it'll say something like, congratulations, your FAFSA has been submitted. You also would have received an email literally right then and there saying your FAFSA has been submitted. And if you scroll a little bit lower, it'll say your EFC. And your EFC is the number the universities use to see how much aid you're going to get, okay?